14 minutes. That's how long she stood outside that door in the freezing rain, 8 months heavily pregnant with her hair roughly shaved off, waiting for someone to let her in. Nobody came. What she decided in that cold darkness changed absolutely everything. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. If you love deeply emotional stories filled with twists, healing, and undeniable drama, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Grab a warm cup of tea, settle in, and let us dive into today's incredible journey together. Your support means the absolute world to me. 14 minutes. That was all it took for the freezing New York rain to completely numb Bianca's scalp. The jagged, uneven edges of her newly shaved head stung like absolute fire against a biting autumn wind. She stood outside the massive reinforced iron gates of the Westchester estate, her pale fingers trembling uncontrollably as she clutched her 8-month pregnant belly. From the warm, glowing windows of the mansion, she could actually hear the faint sounds of her mother-in-law's dinner party. The laughter echoed through the storm, mocking her. Her mother-in-law, Eleanor, had been driven by a deep, festering jealousy ever since Bianca became the absolute center of Co. Kong Jun's world. Eleanor had meticulously manipulated Kong Jun into believing Bianca had committed a grave betrayal. She fabricated financial documents, whispered poisonous rumors, and twisted innocent moments into ugly lies. Under that heavy blanket of deception, Kong Jun had ordered that his wife be disciplined and isolated until he returned from his business trip in Chicago. He was completely unaware of the cruelty that would actually follow his vague command. Instead of sending her to a quiet wing of the house, his mother had forced Bianca into a chair in the grand foyer. The shears glinted coldly under the crystal chandelier. Eleanor stripped Bianca of her dignity, cutting away the long, beautiful dark hair that Kong Jun used to brush every single night. Then, Eleanor dragged her out into the storm and locked the gates. To die, to be erased. Every single drop of the freezing rain felt like a massive betrayal, especially knowing her husband had given the initial order. As the darkness began to swallow her sight, Bianca leaned against the cold iron. She closed her eyes. Maybe, probably, but still, she had to survive for the baby. Her mind drifted to just a few months ago, trying to find warmth in her memories. She remembered their romantic getaway to a cozy cabin in Aspen, Colorado. Kong Jun had rented the entire place just for them. They spent hours sitting on a massive bearskin rug right in front of the roaring fireplace, playing intensely competitive games of Scrabble. "You are definitely cheating," he sighed, looking at the board. "I am just better with words than you," she laughed, tossing a marshmallow at him. He had smiled that soft, rare smile of his, reaching behind the sofa to pull out a beautifully wrapped box. Inside was a custom-made, heavy woolen coat from a boutique in town, and tucked inside the pocket was a delicate vintage music box that played their favorite jazz tune. He had spent the entire weekend making her hot cocoa, rubbing her swollen feet, and taking her on gentle horse-drawn carriage rides through the snowy town. They shopped for tiny baby boots in little rustic stores, arguing playfully over whether to buy the yellow ones or the green ones. He had bought both. He showered her with gifts, taking her to fancy dinners where they ate the best steaks and talked about their future. Now, standing in the rain, that man felt like a total stranger. The man she loved had become the monster she had to survive. She hugged her stomach tightly. The cold was seeping into her bones. She needed help, but the long, winding road leading away from the estate was completely empty. The wind howled through the trees. She started to walk, her bare feet scraping against the rough asphalt. She remembered their trips to Beverly Hills, where Kong Jun would rent out entire boutiques just so she could try on maternity dresses in total privacy. He would sit on plush velvet sofas, nodding in approval and buying her diamond earrings to match every single outfit. He used to treat her like absolute royalty. Now, she was nothing more than a discarded secret in the mud. Her vision blurred. The rain fell heavier. She stumbled, her knees hitting the wet ground. The world was fading away into a dull, gray fuzz. She just wanted to sleep. She wanted the pain to stop. When Seo Kong-jun finally circled back to the gate 3 days later, cutting his Chicago trip short because a weird feeling kept gnawing at his stomach, he expected to find his wife inside the house. He expected to have a difficult conversation about the supposed betrayal. Instead, as his car pulled up to the heavy iron gates, his headlights illuminated something on the ground. He stepped out of the car. The rain had stopped, leaving everything damp and cold. There, sitting in a puddle near the gate, was a discarded clump of dark hair. Her hair. What is this? He hesitated, his voice barely a whisper in the quiet night. He rushed into the mansion, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm. He expected to find a broken woman begging for forgiveness. Instead, he faced an empty room, a smirking mother, and a truth that would haunt him for the next 3 years. She was gone. Unbeknownst to the entire mafia underworld, Bianca had not died on that road. Just as she had lost consciousness, a sleek black SUV had rolled down the private estate road. Inside was Kai, Seo Kong-jun's most lethal and cold-blooded business rival. Kai had been surveying the estate, looking for a weakness in Kong-jun's security. What he found instead was Kong-jun's pregnant wife, shivering in near death. Kai took her far away to his heavily guarded estate nestled in the lush green mountains outside of Seattle, Washington. Under Kai's protection, the fragile, heartbroken girl who was shamed and shorn completely vanished. Kai was not a warm man, but he treated her with a deep, respectful kindness that helped her heal. During her final month of pregnancy, he transformed a massive guest suite into a beautiful nursery. He hired the best decorators to paint the walls a soft, calming sage green. He bought a handcrafted oak crib and filled the closet with the softest baby clothes from high-end boutiques in Paris and New York. "You did not have to do all of this," she sighed, touching the tiny knitted sweaters. "You are my guest," he replied simply, leaning against the doorframe. "And a strong woman deserves a safe place to rest." They spent their evenings in his glass-walled sunroom overlooking the pine trees. Kai taught her how to play complex games of chess. It was his way of sharpening her mind, of keeping her from falling into despair. They would sit for hours, sipping decaf tea, moving the carved wooden pieces across the marble board. To help her feel beautiful again after the trauma of losing her hair, Kai gifted her an array of luxurious silk scarves from pure vintage collections. He took her on quiet, discreet shopping trips to small, upscale boutiques in downtown Seattle. He bought her tailored cashmere coats, elegant leather boots, and delicate gold jewelry. He never asked for anything in return. It was purely an alliance of respect. When her son, Leo, was born, Kai was the one sitting in the hospital waiting room. He became an uncle figure, bringing the little boy huge stuffed bears and vintage wooden train sets. As the years passed, Bianca replaced her sadness with a heart of solid ice and a remarkably sharp mind. She learned the ins and outs of Kai's business. She learned how to read contracts, how to spot a liar, and how to command a room. She raised little Leo in the shadows of the estate, reading him bedtime stories and taking him on secret vacations to sunny beaches in Florida. She would buy Leo little sunglasses and build sandcastles with him, making sure his life was filled with absolute joy and love. But when Leo asked about his father, Bianca would just look out at the ocean. "Your father is just a story, sweetie," she would say softly. She fed him stories of a man who was nothing more than a ghost, a dead man. If you are loving this story so far and want to hear more incredible tales of strength, healing, and redemption, please take a quick second to subscribe to the channel. It helps me bring you more of these amazing stories every single week. Now, let's get back to the drama. For 3 long, agonizing years, Seo Kong-jun leveled entire city blocks. He tore through informants in Miami, Boston, and Los Angeles. His guilt had turned into a toxic, terrifying madness that scared even his own loyal soldiers. He stopped sleeping. He stopped eating properly. He just hunted. What began as anger slowly rotted into something far, far worse when the actual truth finally clawed its way to the surface. It happened on a rainy Tuesday. Kong Jun had cornered one of his mother's old accountants in a diner in New Jersey. The terrified man handed over a thick file of documents. Sitting in his car, Kong Jun flipped through the pages. The bank statements, the letters, they were all completely forged. His mother had paid people to lie. Bianca had committed no crime. She had never betrayed him. The discipline he had casually ordered over the phone had been twisted by his mother into something monstrous, something he had never, ever intended. His mother had not just punished Bianca. She had tried to execute his unborn heir and humiliate his wife out of pure, unadulterated malice and jealousy. The realization absolutely shattered what little remained of Kong Jun's restraint. He sat in his car and cried. He had not just lost the love of his life. He had practically handed her over to be destroyed. His mind flooded with the memories of their honeymoon in Hawaii. He remembered renting a massive private yacht and sailing around the islands. They had spent lazy afternoons playing card games on the deck, betting silly things like who would have to make breakfast the next morning. He remembered buying her a beautiful pearl necklace from a local artisan, fastening it around her neck while the sun set over the ocean. They had gone snorkeling, picking up colorful shells from the shallow water. He used to surprise her with huge bouquets of exotic flowers every single morning. He loved her so much. How could he have been so stupid? The hunt intensified. He threw millions of dollars at private investigators. Then the invitation arrived. It was a high-stakes underworld gala held at the famous Plaza Hotel in Manhattan. Every major player in the country was going to be there. Kong Jun attended solely to look for information on Kai's latest movements. The ballroom was a sea of crystal, champagne, and expensive tuxedos. Kong Jun stood by the bar, nursing a drink, feeling completely hollow. Then, the heavy oak doors at the top of the grand staircase opened. The entire room seemed to quiet down. Kong Jun looked up, and his heart literally stopped beating. There she was. She did not flinch at the sight of him. She did not look away. She was no longer the broken, weeping girl with the unevenly shaved head standing in the rain. She was an absolute queen. Bianca was draped in a stunning, floor-length emerald green silk gown that hugged her figure perfectly. The dress was a gift from Kai, bought during a recent trip to London. Her dark hair had grown back, styled into sleek, elegant waves that cascaded over her shoulders. She wore a brilliant diamond choker that caught the light of the chandeliers. She stood gracefully at Kai's side, holding his arm lightly. Her face held a look of completely lethal indifference. Kong Jun felt sick to his stomach. He realized in that exact moment that he had not just lost a wife. He had created his own greatest enemy. And looking at the cold, calculating fire in her beautiful eyes, he knew she was finally ready to collect her debt. The confrontation happened in a quiet hallway away from the main ballroom. Kong Jun had followed her, his footsteps heavy on the plush carpet. "Bianca," he hesitated, his voice cracking with emotion. She turned slowly. She looked at him as if he were a mildly annoying stranger asking for directions. "Seo Kong Jun," she replied, her tone perfectly flat. "You look tired." The interaction shook the very foundations of his soul. He fell to his knees right there in the hallway, not caring who saw the great mafia boss completely break down. He begged for forgiveness that Bianca was simply no longer capable of giving. "I did not know," he sighed, tears spilling down his face. "My mother lied. The documents were fake. I swear to you, I never told her to hurt you. I have looked for you every single day. Every second since you left has been a total punishment." He tried to explain about the forged letters, the manipulation. He told her about the baby room he had kept untouched in their house. But the woman before him did not soften. The rain that once broke her spirit had long since turned to solid ice within her veins. "You ordered a punishment without asking me for the truth," she said quietly. "You left me to the wolves. You do not get to cry now." She walked away, leaving him on the floor. The next week, Kong Jun turned his legendary, destructive rage toward his own blood. He began systematically dismantling his mother's immense power and wealth as penance for the 14 minutes Bianca had spent freezing in the rain. He froze Eleanor's bank accounts. He seized her luxury cars. He took the deeds to her vacation homes in the Hamptons and Florida. He stripped her of all her servants and forced her to live in a tiny, modest apartment in the city without a dime to her name. Every single person who had been at that dinner party, anyone who had held the shears or closed the heavy front door that night, was hunted down and ruined financially. His empire began to fracture under the massive weight of his guilt. His business partners panicked. His enemies started circling like vultures, sensing his distraction. But none were more dangerous than Bianca. To try and win her back, Kong Jun began sending extravagant gifts to Kai's estate. He remembered her favorite things. He sent rare first-edition vintage books she used to love reading on Sunday mornings. He bought custom-made dresses from Fifth Avenue boutiques. He even sent a completely restored vintage record player along with a collection of her favorite jazz vinyls, hoping to remind her of the nights they spent dancing in their living room. He sent giant boxes of gourmet chocolates, the exact kind they used to buy during their road trips to San Francisco. She sent every single box back, unopened, yet the more Kong Jun tried, the further she drifted away. She watched the total destruction of his family with cold, unfeeling eyes. It was not with satisfaction. It was with finality. This was not revenge anymore. This was consequence. In the end, after his mother was ruined and his business was falling apart, there was only one thing left for CO Kong Jun to offer. Not money, not power, not endless apologies or fancy dresses, not even his life in a glorious battle, but his life willingly. It happened on a silent, dark night in late November. Bianca had received a message to meet him at the old Westchester estate. Kai had advised her not to go, but she knew she had to finish this chapter. She drove up the winding road, the same road she had crawled down 3 years ago. It was raining, the same cold, biting kind of rain. Kong Jun was standing right outside the Grand Iron Gates. He was completely unarmed. No bodyguards hiding in the trees. No weapons in his coat. No throne waiting for him inside. No grand titles. He was just a man, stripped completely down to his bare guilt and regret. Bianca stepped out of her warm car, holding an umbrella. "If this is what it takes," he said, his voice miraculously steady despite the roaring storm around them, "then let me be the absolutely last debt you collect." He looked at her, entirely vulnerable. He was offering her the ultimate closure. For the very first time in 3 long years, Bianca really looked at him. She did not look at him as a stranger. She did not look at him as the monster from her nightmares. She looked at him as a man who finally, truly understood the massive weight of what he had destroyed. She remembered the man who used to buy her ice cream at midnight. The man who used to play goofy board games with her. The man who had been terribly, tragically tricked by his own mother. She reached into her coat pocket. Her hand grasped the cold metal of a small, decorative blade Kai had given her long ago. Her hand lifted. The storm seemed to hold its breath. The rain felt frozen in midair. Will CO Kong Jun actually lose his life to protect the peace of the woman he broke? Or will Bianca deliver the final blow, severing their painful tie forever? Thank you so much for reading this incredible story with me today. If you want to find out what happens next, or if you just love these emotional roller coaster stories, please do not forget to subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and comment down below what you think Bianca should do. See you in the next video.